Interview, Wall Street investment bank JP Morgan today said the unrest in South Africa has ripped through the country, will force the economy to contract by 3% in the third quarter and drag down full-year growth. The violent flare-ups have prompted the Wall Street Bank to revise its quarter-on-quarter projections sharply lower from a previous estimate of minus 0.5%. Joining us to talk about how the country's economy will be impacted is CEO of Standard Bank in South Africa, Mr. Lungisa Fuzile. Thank you very much for joining us, sir. And how do you think South Africa's economy will be hit by the latest crisis as we assess it at this present moment?
Without a doubt, Tolani and the listeners or viewers of the program, this is a setback. You will recall that we ended last year on a positive note and started this year on a positive note too. As you would recall that for both quarters, on an annualized basis, we were recording decent, albeit still low, growth rates, showing somehow that the economy was beginning to recover from the vagaries of the pandemic and the lockdowns occasioned by it. Now, we have had then this setback occasioned by the events of this week. It is early first to call, but there are a couple of views on it. In our case, the view we hold is that if this is contained and we can begin the rebuilding process over the next while, we are still likely for the full year to register somewhere in the region of about 4% growth for this year. Of course, there are many ifs about this, but one of the reasons that gives us some of this confidence is the fact that household consumption and, the consumer buying power had shown some resilience, notwithstanding the challenges of the moment, COVID and some of the on and off occasions that it visits on us. So we still believe that that is likely to continue over the next while once we are over this hump. In a peculiar way, by the way, there is also a view, and I subscribe to this view, that if we start the rebuild program in a place like KZN that's affected quite adversely by this, and it begins in earnest, it could actually, in somewhat a perverse way, begin to also buoy growth somewhat, because it will contribute to an uptick in investment. In a way, Tolani, it doesn't make a big difference that we may be, at least in numbers, let me be clear about this and not appear insensitive. The fact that we will be rebuilding infrastructure that was there before, but in the calculation of gross domestic product and the performance of the economy, that could actually contribute to some recovery in the economy. Hence, our belief still that there is a reasonably good chance that we might still register a decent growth for the full year.
Let's talk about how this unrest and instability could impact on the country's fiscus. You were the DG of National Treasury for many years and are better placed to answer this question. We just heard from Fitch saying that government may be forced to actually make more money available to support affected businesses and communities.
I always wish, Tolani, that I wouldn't be asked questions that relate to my previous job, because I left very well qualified people to answer them. But on a serious note, look, what we had seen in the start of this year, which partly contributed to the decent growth GDP growth numbers that I was talking about was a very, very robust recovery in mining, driven in part by commodity prices that had strengthened quite a bit, but at the same time also driven by the fact that mining didn't have a protracted stop or closure during COVID. It was short-lived, and then they restarted, which was good. And that was beginning to show in the revenue numbers, as you would have picked or seen them. And one still believes that some of that will be in the system. As you know, mining production is less likely to have been affected by this, given just where it is located. Hopefully, the logistics relating to the exports of the commodities will sort of weather this. And if that happens and the prices continue to hold up, then the chances are that we might see actually an offset on the positive side of the negative impact of the moment we're going through. Very sad moment, dare I say, in the fiscal numbers or revenue numbers, so to speak. Look, Tolani, we wish that what has happened had never happened, but now that it is there, we've got to confront it. I fervently believe that South Africa has what it takes to get up, dust itself off, and get going again. And the mood in a meeting that I was involved in last night, which involved several ministers in the economic cluster, security cluster, and many chief executives, close to 40 of them, just left me with this feeling that, one, this will soon pass. Second, we will hold hands together, business, government, and the community has already shown that it can stand up for what is right. And they brought these developments of this past week or week that's ending to a grinding halt. I have got no reason to doubt that that is going to energize the nation. Yes, it's a bad moment, but out of it, the silver lining is that it's going to energize us, get us to hold hands and do what's best for South Africa and rebuild this country for the good of all South Africans.
And lastly, the President is about to address the nation for a third time this week, tonight at 8:30. What would you like to hear coming out of the President tonight?
A bit of tough talk, a very stern voice that sends a clear message to those behind this, that government will go after them. The might of the state will be unleashed within the four corners of the law to bring them to book and hold them accountable for this. And of course, in the very immediate term, what we want to see, and it is happening, is a deployment of our men and women in uniform and having them contain this thing, flush it out, so that the movement of goods, services, people can resume, food, basic essentials can reach people as quickly as possible so that we can save lives and start in earnest the rebuilding process. I'm hoping that the President will reassure us, and I've got no doubt he has got it within him to do so.
Mr. Lungisa Fuzile, the CEO of Standard Bank in South Africa, thank you very much for your time. They're telling us that there needs to be tough talk from the President tonight. At least that's what he is expecting from President Cyril Ramaphosa tonight at 8:30. And you can watch that address live here on Newzroom Afrika.